Torture, a short analysis by Isabel Cheshire. I'm sure torture is part of your vocabulary, but how would you explain the concept to someone else? One useful definition comes from the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment in 1984. Professor Fritz Alhoff also offers a useful definition. So, from both definitions, we learn that torture must be intentional, can cause physical, mental, or emotional harm, and is usually done for information or for symbolic reasons. Alhoff is an important scholar in defining and discussing torture. In his famous ticking time bomb scenario, a deadly explosive has been placed in a major city. The bomb ticks closer to detonation at every second, and intelligence officers have someone in custody who may know where it's planted. Alhoff believed that in this specific scenario, torture is justifiable. Typically, the torture debate splits people down two passionate sides. Here are some of the main pro-torture arguments. Common anti-torture arguments include the following. Torture became a household talking point in 2004 when leaked photographs from the US-run war prison, Abu Ghraib, caused a huge PR disaster for the Bush administration. In one photo, a man stands with a bag over his head. If he steps down, wires may electrocute him. In another photo, the prisoners are naked and piled atop each other as a guard smiles in the background at their humiliation. Under the 1984 Geneva Convention, there's no justification for the troops' actions. It states that torture can never be legitimized, even in times of war, internal political instability, or any other public emergency. 1 year later, Time magazine published a damning report on the treatment of US's war prisoners. It claimed that according to a paper by the Senate Intelligence Committee, the CIA had been exaggerating the effectiveness of their harsh interrogation methods. Time described one case where a captive was forced to urinate in his pants because he was denied a bathroom break. Professor Adam Henschke tackles the use of torture in his journal article, Taking Terrorism, Ticking Time Bombs and Torture Seriously. Henschke writes that a perfect ticking time bomb scenario would only occur in the real world, rarely, if at all. However, he acknowledges that the debate is complex. It's not easy to decide whether a group of innocent people's right to life is more important than a prisoner's right not to be tortured. Henschke also acknowledges that an innocent person will admit to virtually anything to stop being tortured. They may even offer false information to avoid more pain, which only puts the public in more danger. Furthermore, there's no way of knowing for sure whether the captive truly knows where the bomb is, and thus interrogators would be using inhumane practices for no reason. Ultimately, Henschke believes that in very specific cases, torture is acceptable. The key is for academics to clarify exactly when it can be used. Only with a clear conceptual framework can we possibly allow powerful governments the option to torture. Western films and TV shows often portray torture as a regrettable but necessary practice to save lives. One famous example is 24. A long-running drama that frequently used ticking time bomb scenarios. The main character, hardened but heroic CIA operative Jack Bauer, will stop at nothing to defend his country. Karen Tenenbaum Weinblatt's journal article, Where is Jack Bauer When You Need Him?, suggests that TV shows like 24 fit with the US government's broader efforts to legitimise their illegal use of torture. She also criticises 24's creators for taking advantage of people's terrorism fears. The show premiered just 2 months after 9/11. According to Weinblatt, Jack Bauer became more than a character, and was even referenced in the political realm. A Republican candidate for the 2008 federal election, Tom Tancredo, said this about torture. You can say nuclear devices have gone off in the United States, more are planned, and we're wondering about whether waterboarding would be a bad thing to do? I'm looking for Jack Bauer at that time. Weinblatt also studied how the US media used 24 politically, and found that conservative columnists typically used the show to legitimise torture. This highlights how deeply 24 is embedded in American political culture, and also shows how effective media framing can be in making a gruesome concept like torture seem palatable. My media text is a 40-second video from Amnesty International's Stop Torture campaign. The video can be found online through a simple Google search. The campaign explains that since torture happens away from the public eye, it is also out of the public's mind. It exists only as an obscure form of injustice. The slogan below the video on the web page expresses how important it is to raise awareness for torture. All around the world, people are being tortured that are just like you.
Nothing has changed. The body is a reservoir of pain. It has to eat and breathe the air and sleep. It has thin skin, and the blood is just beneath it. It has a good supply of teeth and fingernails. Its bones can be broken. Its joints can be stretched. In tortures, all of this is considered.
Part of why the clip resonates with viewers so much is because of the medium itself. According to Forbes magazine, videos are one of the most effective forms of advertising. When we view a person's body language on screen, or hear recognizable sounds, we pick up on deeper layers of meaning than we get from words on a page. The video plays on our senses and the power of suggestion. A mangled, bloodied hunk of clay resembling a naked man hunches over a chair in submission. Dark lighting and disjointed close-up and mid-range camera shots flash from one to the next, making the viewer feel a growing sense of unease. The sinister voiceover reminds us of the human body's vulnerabilities: fingernails, teeth, and a thin layer of skin. While a knife jabs at something hard and pink, symbolizing human flesh. When the video ends and we see a man's gasping face, the viewer connects with him emotively. We now understand that torture has a human, relatable face. These techniques take our minds on a journey, as we think about what it would be like to sit in that torture chamber. Thus, we engage critically with the video's core message more than if we were simply shown an act of torture. The mise-en-scène is sparse throughout the video, with a dark setting that only has a chair and a lamp. It could be in any country or part of any scenario. The ethnic background of the man at the end of the clip is also ambiguous. The purpose of stripping back these identifiers is to highlight that torture happens all over the world to people of many races, religions, backgrounds, genders, and creeds. It's a pervasive problem that for Amnesty has been ignored for too long.